Hello, angels. As you probably know, if you clicked on this video, a few months ago, Virginia rapper Pusha T reunited with his brother to release the first Clipse album in 15 years, their rap group that dates all the way back to the early 2000s. And it's kind of become one of the biggest critical darlings of the year among all of the albums that have come out so far this year, which was a little bit unexpected for some people. And as a pretty notorious Pusha T fan myself, I figure I'll throw my hat in the ring. And because it's me, I waited until the discourse was entirely done and completely cycled through and put out a late video that no one will care about anymore. But that's what this is, a short little video that I wanted to make so that I can talk about the Clipse album. The birds don't sing, they screech and play. So what do we know about Pusha T as an artist? Like, what are his characteristics?
The blackout, Rory got the back out, showing my black ass engine in the glass house.
One that springs to mind immediately, because it's probably the hardest to ignore, is his intensity. As both a vocalist and as a lyricist, he is one of the most intense performers in all of hip-hop.
They call him a crack dealer, I am like Warhol. A nigga paint a picture of a bullet for all y'all, now crawl for him.
From the provocative content that he's rapping about to the husky sort of demeanor that he delivers it in, reaching occasionally into these growled vocals, these heinous yuck ad-libs that he does all over the place. He's just kind of scary to listen to sometimes, but in a way that I find very gripping and very engaging. And to match that level of intensity, he is also known to jump on some pretty confrontational production, instrumentals that would swallow a lot of rappers, but they're kind of the beats that make for a lot of the best Pusha T songs. Not that he's not capable of jumping on something more smooth and conventional and writing it expertly, but wow, some of the unconventional beats he chooses are insane. Back in my video about the best songs of 2013, I called his track Numbers on the Boards one of the hardest songs of all time, which I'm going to now amend that statement and go ahead and verify it as the hardest fucking song of all time. And a lot of that comes from how confrontational the beat is, but how Pusha T's intensity, skill, ability, and performance style allow him to conquer it anyway. He's also a lyricist that I would describe as personal, though not in the kind of vulnerable way that artists like Saba or Little Sims or McKinley Dixon are personal. More so than a storyteller, I would describe Pusha T as kind of a myth maker, and his own story is his mythos, his background, coming from his origins, the work that he put in to arrive here, what happened to him along the way, the empire that he built in the process, the fact that he probably doesn't have to be rapping, he just does it because he's good at it. When Pusha T raps about himself, his past, when he tells stories about himself, again, they're almost mythologized, and that's because the intention behind them is to remind you why he's achieved the status that he's achieved, more so than they are to evoke any kind of empathy or emotional comparison within a listener. You're not supposed to have achieved anything near what Pusha T has achieved.
Where were you when Big Meech brought the tigers in? Cause I was busy earning stripes like a tiger skin.
Speaking of which, there's something else that a lot of people think of when Pusha T comes to mind. A substance. Let's go with substance. I shouldn't say it, right? I'll get in trouble if I say it. I have something. Okay, this works. See, purely for educational purposes, right here, just an infographic, just straight information. And so we're all on the same page, and so it's just right over here, so you can look at it, and you know what we're talking about when we're talking about Pusha T. So this right here is the central part of the Pusha T mythos, the empire, the hustle. It all comes back to number one right over here. And to say he brings it up a lot would be an understatement.
Poetry, scholar rock with the coca. I'm a joke. What's missing in my hood, I identified. Then I brought white to my hood. Shit, I gentrified. PTSD from what I wait on the digital. It was snowfall and Reagan gave me the visual. I'm grind like a cripple. Balance way through the hood. Kids call me Mr. Sniffles. I might sell a brick on my birthday. 36 years of doing dirt like it's Earth Day. I predict snow, Al Roker. White on white, that's the tester. Black on black, that's the Tesla. I got him, baby, I'm Jim Purdue. Cocaine's Dr. Seuss.
So where do I come in? Good question. Sharp thinking. I'm going to take this away while I talk about myself. I am a big fan of Pusha T, and I have not been shy about it. I've been a big fan of his for a very, very long time, just about as long as I've been into music at all. I've had the opportunity to review him on my blog twice for his fucking masterpiece 2018 album Daytona, which is perfect, must listen. Go listen to it. Stop my video. You don't even have to come back if you just want to go listen to this if you've never heard it before. And then I got to review him again a few years ago when he dropped It's Almost Dry, another very strong record in his discography. I've also gotten to cover several great Pusha T features. He tends to be the best part of songs and albums he's on, be it Good Morning by Black Thought, Palmolive by Freddie Gibbs, that song Nightmares or whatever by Corday, Enough by Flume as well, the Gold Link track that he's on, and that's just the stuff I've gotten to talk about. That's not even going back to Let Me Out by Gorillaz with Mavis Staples, or his verse on Mercy, or the fucking feature of the decade for the 2010s, his verse on Kanye's Runaway. But all of this stuff, all of this praise, all of these amazing characteristics about Pusha T and his songs and his performances, it goes back further than his journey as a solo artist. So in case you're just hearing about it now for the first time, before he was just Pusha T, he was one half of Clipse with his brother Malice, and they released a pair of really influential, really acclaimed, and really beloved albums in the 2000s, records that I first heard when I was getting into music and I fell in love with on my own path well over a decade after they were released. And frankly, I kind of never really thought we would hear from Clipse again, or at least it seemed that way for a long time until Malice popped up again on Kanye's Jesus is King record, and then made another really memorable, notable appearance on the closing track to It's Almost Dry. And for the last couple of years, we've been hearing tons and tons and tons of rumors about Clipse releasing a new album. They're recording, they're working with Pharrell, they're in the studio, they're at a fashion show, etc., etc., etc. And then earlier this year, we got the album, Let God Sort 'Em Out, and damn, is it good. And it also embodies pretty much all of the characteristics that we were ascribing to Pusha T earlier. If you want to talk about intensity, goddamn, put on the song Chains and Whips, probably the hardest song of 2025. No surprise here with a standout Kendrick feature. The whole second half of his verse, he's building like rhymes around the syllable gin, and it's from genitals, generation, Jenga. It's kind of incredible how many ideas he comes up with it.
Two-time Gemini with the genocide. I'm generous, however you want it. I'll be the gentle kind.
And you want to talk about confrontational beat choices? Check out the second single, So Be It. Yeah, when the album dropped, the instrumental for this song had changed, and it did not take them long to put the original back, because it is amazing, and the fans were calling for it pretty much immediately, and I'm so glad they did, because it is fucking heat. Best beat on the record easily, and both Pusha T and Malice are well equipped to ride it.
Floors are heated, so be it, so be it. Fucking with P, get something to meet you.
And to get back to this girl over here, yeah, she's all over the record, most notably on the song Mike Tyson Blow to the Face, which also might be the summer jam of the album if it could have one. Oh my god, Mike Tyson Blow to the Face is so fucking funny. And alongside this is the myth maker side of Pusha T that we've become accustomed to. However, there is a moment on the record where, not for the first time ever, but in perhaps the rawest and most meaningful way, I think we really do see both Pusha T and Malice starting to resemble storytellers in the ways of some of their contemporaries. They're no longer gods when you press play on this record and hear its opening song, The Birds Don't Sing.
Lost in emotion, mama's youngest.
This album, full of whip-smart double entendres and hard-hitting street raps, starts with Pusha T delivering one of the most harrowing verses I've heard in a long time. This verse thematically, literally sees Pusha T detailing what is essentially his final conversation with his mother before her death. And the first half of the verse is just soaked in regret. He seems to genuinely lament the fact that he did not understand and recognize what she was going through. And not only is he willing to get detailed when he is telling the story of the situation, but he also doesn't pull any punches when reflecting on his own shortcomings in the involvement. The first half of a really memorable bar from the record reads, "I heard what I wanted to hear, but didn't listen." But the second half of the verse takes it in a different direction and not only pays tribute to Pusha T's mother, but also implies that she was anticipating her own death and planning accordingly. The second half of that earlier bar reading, "You were checking boxes, I was checking my mentions." And he goes on to reveal that by checking boxes, he means like literally making arrangements for all of the people in her life in anticipation of her death, but without telling them that it was coming. It even goes so far as to insinuate that she planned who would find her body. Jesus Christ. This is the first thing on the record, by the way. And in a normal year, I could say with some degree of certainty that this was the most harrowing rap verse about the loss of a parent that I had heard. However, Waterproof Mascara by Billy Woods, which predates this Clipse album by just a few months, is a track about Billy witnessing his mother's reaction to learning about the death of his father.
Watched my mother cry from the top of the stairs, scared when it came through the walls. I covered my ears, half hoping you know who would die. Then he did. Surprise!
But instead of valorizing the deceased, Billy takes the opportunity as a true storyteller on this verse, this opening verse, to lament the dangers of the world, the isolation and loneliness that he feels without a father, with this tight family being the only people he can trust. And the end of the verse is this:
King's dead and your uncles are not our friends. How many times I gotta tell you kids, it's us in this room. That's it.
All of this is done over this brooding, stark beat that really prominently features a woman just piercing, crying. It is, harrowing is really the only word I can use to describe it. But where Billy presents his struggles as a sort of result of tragedy that happened to him in a, again, extremely vulnerable and self-critical second verse on The Birds Don't Sing, Malice is willing to attribute his shortcomings entirely to himself, despite the fact that he is valorizing his own father for how great of a dad he was.
Your car was in the driveway, I knew you were home. By the third knock, a chill ran through my bones.
This one is even more directly heroizing the parent here. Malice goes into a ton of detail about how great of a father his dad was, how much he loved his kids. He was such a great father that he was a father figure to other children that they knew growing up, which within the context of Malice opening this verse by describing being the one to find his body, the song is not really giving you a moment to breathe here. And the regret that Malice expresses on this verse is artistically something that will stick with me for a very, very long time. I mean, he details a sort of philosophical approach to some of the sort of good attitudes and practices that his father preaches and parlays it immediately into the first time that his father discovers that he's dealing drugs. And it is one of the best fucking bars I've ever seen in my entire life.
Mine worked overtime, smiled through the struggle, cause mine wouldn't let us feel what he had to suffer. See, mine made sure he had every base covered, so imagine his pain finding base in the cupboard.
I would get the infographic out again, but in the wake of how emotional of a moment that is, it feels too crass. I mean, it's just, the prose is incredible, and the feeling that Malice manages to evoke with this storytelling, it's, oh my god. And of course, both of these verses are capped by a hook that just, wow. Wow. The birds don't sing, they screech in pain. Really adding even more emotional weight and depth to the presentation of this song, the explicit details of this song, the lack of forgiveness that either brother allots themselves for past sins, even though in this situation you'd really think you would want to give yourself some leeway. It's just the, again, intensity of their performance translates so well into this sort of deeply raw, vulnerable, emotional storytelling. It's a bit of a ramble, but there's just so much to say. There's so much going on here. How do you encapsulate everything they do emotionally in just a few words? I have notes, but I don't even know where to start. And I think that's why this song has stuck with me so much, because it obviously does something that is emotionally profound and complicated, and thinking about it has been, frankly, really rewarding. And after that experience, we transition immediately into the hardest song of 2025, Chains and Whips featuring Kendrick Lamar.
Uncle said, nigga, you must be sick. All you talk about is just get rich.
And for the most part, the entire rest of the album never touches anything even remotely as vulnerable or serious or regretful as Birds Don't Sing. It's kind of amazing that this is just slipped into the beginning of the album, and then it's just straight street rap fucking coke-fueled bangers the whole rest of the way. Sorry, pretend I didn't say coke-fueled. I forgot I wasn't supposed to. Again, it's the details. There is a version of this song that grafts more formally onto what we expect from Pusha T, where he valorizes his parents and attributes the legacy that he built for himself and that he'll leave behind to the structure and the fundamentals that they put in place. But that isn't the song we got. We got the Birds Don't Sing. And as a result, maybe it's time to update what we expect from Pusha T.
The birds don't sing, the birds don't sing, they screech and play. Don't